All right, guys, promised you another very special guest and excited to talk this afternoon with actor and he's also a musician. I found out a little while ago. Courtney Gaines with us today. And first off, Courtney, I truly appreciate you taking the time to be on the show.
No problem, but who you calling special?
Yeah, I know, right? Now, Courtney, I know one of the things that I noticed whenever I got the press release was 30 years in the industry you're celebrating, and how unbelievable is that for you to even take that in?
Yeah, 35 or something at this point. Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you look back, right? It's like, where did all the time go, as they say, you know? That's why it's funny when, of course, everyone wants to talk about, Children of the Corn, and I understand that. But sometimes, people ask me questions for this and that, and I'm like, man, that was like 30 years ago. I don't freaking remember.
What is the one for you that sticks out as one of the roles that you really hang on to, and that you're like, that's if I want to be defined by one thing, I want to be defined by that one.
Ooh, I wanted to be defined by one role. Ooh, probably not Children of the Corn, but that is the one I am defined by it. And like I said, I understand to some degree. I understand, but let's see, what one would I want to be defined by? Yikes! I don't know. That's a really good question. No one's actually asked that question before. I like it. I like it. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, the one that comes to mind is just a role recently that fairly recently that I did a really good guest star on Criminal Minds,
Hmm.
um, where I play the character that he thinks whatever the name for the bad guy, the sub
Unsub.
yeah, the unsub. But it turns out I'm not the unsub, but I play this really homeless, mentally challenged character, yet he's protecting, someone else, and that was a really challenging role. That was one of the few guest stars I've ever been just offered. I guess they figured it was a really challenging role. They needed someone who could probably figure it out. But I remember when we went to the table read, I got there early so I could meet the director, and I said, I don't understand this. And I never do something. I said, can you help me? He's like, let's go talk to the executive producer writer. So we went to him. I said, I don't understand this. And even he who wrote it could not really break it down for me. It was
Wow.
that complicated, but he gave me some insights, but not really like all of them. And, but they gave me plenty of time. They were very clever how they left all the good stuff in the interrogation for the end, which so gave me a week to really work on the character. And they did something that no one's ever done in television before, which was say, how would you like to shoot this and in what order? Like it's going to be you all day. How would you like to do this? And that was actually really actually good because there was a particular scene I wanted to have a chance to have a discussion about that was later in the day for the arc, and it really made a big difference. But in television, they usually just walk you on set and go, walk here, sit here. And if you manage to spit your lines out without screwing up, they're moving on. They have to shoot an hour episode in a week. They have to really move. So that was a pretty great experience as far as acting chops go. So I'll go with that for now.
There you go. Now, how much different is the process of getting into character on like you said, on a television show as opposed to coming on a movie set? I mean, how much different is trying to get in that role?
It all comes down to time, right? And that's the advantage that a movie star gets. They might have 6 months to prepare a character, 3 months to prepare a character. I tell people, you give me 6 months, I'll do it in Chinese for you. You know what I mean? It's like that. I've never had that level of luxury. If you're lucky on a film, if you have a month, like you can really do a lot of prep in a month. Sometimes you have that, sometimes you don't. It seems like nowadays it seems like less and less time, but television, it's a very quick turnaround. If you come in, you audition, so you have less than 24 hours to prepare a character for an audition for a cold reading. So that's very difficult in itself. And if you're lucky enough to then get the job, it's usually within a week.
Wow.
And then you're shooting for at tops, if it's a big guest star, a week, and you're moving very fast. So you have to you don't have a lot of time to explore. You kind of got to go with your big guns. You got to go with what works. And so the bigger the film are, even if you're lucky enough to do some theater and have, several weeks of rehearsal, you have much more time to experiment, much more time to explore. And that an actor loves that luxury if you can have it, but television is usually not that arena.
Now we've talked about over your career some of the different movies that you've been in. What the one I go back to, I saw Children of the Corn once. I tried to forget everything about it. It gave me nightmares forever. So that's not my character. I stick you with the Burbs. I stick
Yeah.
you with the Burbs. That's where I stick you at.
Well, that's my, in terms of doing conventions and things, the number two seller is the Burbs, because
Mhm.
it's horror, but it's like, comedy, but the people that like horror love it.
Yeah.
And I really did not know the level of a cult following it had till I started doing conventions. It has a really, really loyal fan base of people who love that movie.
Mhm.
So that's been a nice surprise to know.
And you worked with some amazing actors and actresses over your career as well. And I tell you, the one out now, Queen Bees,
Yeah.
you'd be hard pressed to find a better A list, would you?
No, you're absolutely right. And Michael Lembeck, the director, I took a comedy class that his father started years ago, the Harvey Lembeck Comedy Workshop, that him, Michael, and his sister Helene still teach. And when I heard that he was doing this project, I reached out and said, "Hey, you got anything?" And he didn't have it was a cameo essentially. But when I was told I could work with
Mhm.
Anne Margaret, Ellen Bernstein, Loretta Devine, and Jane Curtin, I'm like, "I'm in. Let's do this." And I've been pleasantly surprised that my scene made the trailer. Sometimes you have a small scene, you might not even make the movie, so much less make the trailer. So that's been a pleasant surprise, and it was a joy to get to work with those ladies.
And the Queen Bees out now. Where can folks find more info on that while
It
we're talking
is.
about
It's been out now for I think this weekend or this Friday will make 2 weeks. You can find it in theaters. It's in quite a few theaters, and it's also on VOD. So it's really available, and it's doing pretty well out there. So it's great.
Now, Courtney, this last year, has it made you appreciate some of the theatrical releases that you've had and the big opportunities to be out with the crowds? And has it made you look forward to those opportunities coming up again as things open up?
Well, yeah, I think for everybody, it's changed our perspective a little bit. I'm not red carpets are fun on one hand, but they're also like strange and awkward and weird. You stand on this carpet and all these people are, with their cameras are asking you to look directly at them all at the same time because they want a shot where you're looking. And the shots are always garbage anyway, right? It's like it's not like lit well, but you're always going like, just all this flashing. It just seems really weird and stupid. And it's terrifying, at a premiere with all these people seeing your movie for the first time. If and often is the case, I haven't had a chance to see it either. So it's the first time. It's always a terrifying and overwhelming experience. But yet at the same time, obviously the whole thing's a buzz, right? It's like
Mhm.
a crazy buzz experience. So yeah, it'll be fun to see something with an audience again. That would be great, and do a carpet again. It's been a while. But what's great is, oddly enough, all these movies, there was a backlog of these films I've done. And I guess maybe because of COVID, nothing came out last year. And all of a sudden, they're all coming out back to back. And ironically, most of them were picked up by Gravitas Ventures. And
Mhm.
they're the ones putting them out theatrically and on VOD. So we've got Queen Bees, which is out now.
Mhm.
The second movie is a little indie film I did during the pandemic called River. It was a very like only 5 people in the project, and it's got sci-fi undertones, but it's not like CGI and in space. And that's coming out in July 13th.
Mhm.
And then I just found out a movie I did before even Queen Bees called Charming the Hearts of Men is coming out August 13th. And
Wow.
again, all theatricals, all VOD at the same time, all Gravitas Ventures. So God bless them for picking up my films and putting them out. And then I just found out another movie I was in called Await the Dawn, which I knew had been out in Europe, a horror film, just got on Amazon Prime this week, and so that's out as well. So all of a sudden, it's just like all these projects that have been like, what happened to them, which often happens when you do indie films, are just all coming out at the same time. So
Now, how do you see the VOD, the on demand, and all that moving forward? How do you see that affecting theatrical releases?
I
Do you think once everything's back open, it's back to normal? You think?
I don't think so. I think that this has changed everybody's, people don't even, there are a lot of people now who don't have to go into an office anymore, and they can move anywhere they want. And there's some great things about that. I'm not saying theaters are going to die, but I think they've taken a big hit, obviously. And some of the other big chains are already buying up other chains. That's already going on. But I think with home entertainment, you can buy these insanely giant screens now. You might as well be in a theater and see it in the comfort of your own home. All you got to do is just, click and boom, you're there for a couple bucks, maybe even cheaper than going to the movies. And certainly the popcorn prices are ridiculous. The highest markup in food history, I think, is popcorn. That's what
I think you're right.
and so I think it's going to affect it. I think the best way to really compare the whole thing is what happened to the record industry, when the CD died. Every time everything goes digital, I think it greatly affects, the physical world, like CDs or going to a movie theater, for that matter. I mean, if or even buying a DVD, right? And you can actually buy the film on VOD if you want to keep it forever, so to speak. So, if you want to see it once, you can do that, or you can have it. And so I just think there's going to be more and more of that going on. I think it already has. And I think you're already seeing it with the, when you look at the Hulus and the Netflix, I mean, that's essentially what the record industry had to do was start buying up all the catalogs. It all became about having giant catalogs, and you're getting your movies out through commercials, films, television. And that's how young audiences are finding out about bands, and that's how that's worked. I think now you're going to see this, you're seeing the same thing happening. And I think, Disney was the first one to really figure it out with Disney Plus, where they're like, okay, we're not giving you our movies anymore, Hulu and Netflix. And not only that, we're going to go buy Fox and we're going to own Star Wars. Beat that, suckers. And, so you want to see Star Wars, if you don't own the DVD, you got to go through Disney Plus now, so they're buying up, Disney and Fox, that's two giant catalogs. That's two out of the top five, right? So you might see that happen again. Paramount's doing Paramount Plus, but I could see Paramount getting bought out eventually by one of the other big ones like Universal or something. So I think it's going to become the catalog game, so that, again, the money is going to be that anybody can find, just tons and tons of movies and catalog that they want to just press a couple buttons and bang, there it is in their home.
Now you also mentioned CDs, and you got the guitars hanging behind you. Has this last year, as a musician, as a writer, has it been adverse on your writing, or has it been beneficial on your writing?
It only really caused me to write one song, which is out now in my band Ripple Street, called The Great Divide, that you can find on Spotify and all those things, but you can also see the music video on YouTube. And that was just really, I felt like in this last year, everybody just went off the freaking rails politically. Just went nuts. And we're constantly spewing their opines, and I try to keep my, I don't know, I don't really want to get into my personal life too much as an actor. It's like, let's talk about acting, or you want to talk about my, want to think philosophically, but like, politics, that's, religion, those are dangerous subjects, and I understand that. But people went nuts. And so I just felt like I needed to, what I do is I do what I do. I created a artistic response. And so the song is just really about, in the video, you're seeing, Black Lives Matters protests, as long as you're seeing Trump rallies, because all of that was happening. It was this perfect storm. And not picking a side, but pointing out that we're sort of being put in positions to pick sides. Like one of the lyrics is, you have to be for the second, or you have to be for gun control. No, you don't. That's what we get presented. You have to be on the right or on the left. No, you don't. I mean, I understand people want, the Second Amendment, and people want to have the right to have guns, but at the same time, I'm like, do we have to have machine guns in the city? No, I don't know if I'm with that. And if I say I want that, that doesn't mean I'm against the Second Amendment. That's you putting words in my mouth. I didn't say that. I just said, I don't know that we need submachine guns, that were meant for war in Vietnam, in the city. That's all. And if you think that's out of line, then, you're pretty strong about where you are. You know what I mean? So that's really what the song's about, is like, that choosing extremes is causing the great divide and making our country weaker. In my opinion, it's not making it better; it's making it worse.
No. Now,
so I sent it out to all the people I knew who were bitching and moaning. I sent them the song, and that was my reply. And most people responded positively. A few people won't talk. They just absolutely will not talk to you about that. That's how staunch they are on their point of view.
Mm-hmm. Now, did music for you, was it the precursor to acting, or was it after you got started acting?
No, I'll link those two questions, what we just were talking about in this together, sort of. So no, the answer is it all started around the same time. I started taking guitar lessons around the same time I started taking acting lessons, which was at 13. I think I was much more goal oriented with being a professional actor though than when I was being a professional musician. I just wanted to learn to play guitar, and then when I started learning to play guitar, I started writing, and that's what I really enjoy. I really enjoy the creative moment that happens when you write a song. It's you feel like the muse coming through you, they talk about, it's really cool when that happens. And so that's really what, and it's also allowed me a way to express things that were going on in my life, frustrations or things that I was processing. Through putting it into song, it really helped me grieve the process. So, and then obviously the acting career took off, and I would still sort of keep music going. My first band was in LA, was called The Gathering, an acoustic band that while metal was going on, I was playing. We were playing coffee houses, so it was totally a different vibe, but to jump into this to the pandemic, it sort of put me in a it sort of did two things to me, realizing like life is short. If you have something you want to do, you better get it done. And I've been talking about doing an acoustic record for a while, and I just kept kind of putting it off or not knowing how I was going to get it done. And having the more time on my hands, I started, doing research and realized you can get a recording home system together now for like really cheap. You just get this little box that you plug into your computer that gives you then a thing where you can track. You need two condenser mics and maybe a mic stand, and you can track stuff in the comfort of your own home. So that really started. So I started realizing like I have no excuses. So that started really getting me going there. And right at the same time that happened, my band Ripple Street, the bass player moved back to the Southeast. All of a sudden he came with some songs. Usually we did co-writing. Mm-hmm. And then he brought in, he had a friend that he writes with, this guy, Frankie Bogus, who also has a home studio, but actually knows how to engineer and produce. So that took it, could mix, and we could get a mastering. And so all of a sudden that became very accessible. I ended up doing a movie in North Carolina and showed up and tracked a couple of vocals, and it went really well. And then I set up my studio. So now we're making songs happen that way too. So what's happening right now is I have a record coming out called Acoustic Gains Volume 1. Mm-hmm. We just put out our second single. I just put out my second single, Cherish, last week. The third single is coming out on Monday the 5th, called Let It Ride, and that's a very bluesy, very vintage, very bluesy acoustic tune. With the band, we've put out 3 singles so far this year. The last one was called Would You, and it's the complete opposite of this mellow acoustic record I'm doing. I equate it to like a Black Sabbath-y type vibe song. It's got that heavy vibe to it. And it's fun. And we put out another song called Slab City, which is also a video. And then, like I said, Great Divide. So we've got 2 more songs to go. I just finished doing my vocal tracks on those. So we're on the mix process now. And once those 2 singles are out, then that will be an EP. So it's been a very creative time for me musically, and I'm enjoying the process, but it's been good for me to finally have no excuses to get off my ass and start putting out some of these songs I've been sitting on for a long time. But I just, finally I'm just like, let's just do them acoustically the way I wrote them. Let's just get them out, So.
Cool. Now, if folks want to keep up with the music, the social media and all that as well, where's the best place to keep up with all of that?
Sure. So you can, for the music, for Courtney Gaines and Ripple Street, you can find us on Spotify for sure. And then like I said, you can find us on Amazon and iTunes and Deezer, all that. If you want to hear some of our stuff. Also, if you search us on YouTube, you'll find we've got a lot of videos up and things. As far as me, Facebook is the best way to keep up with me. That's the stuff I post the most. And you just, Courtney Gaines, there might be a couple of them, but the one is got all the current real stuff, you'll know which one's me. And then I have an Instagram as well. And if you just go Courtney Gaines, you'll find me. And that's it. I don't do Twitter. It's too much. So those are my 2 ways to find me.
Social media. I mean, who would have ever thought back when you started, Courtney, that people would want to know everything you do every day, right?
Yeah, I think even conventions have also opened that door. I think that people have a lot more access to people than they used to, and I think it's a double-edged sword. I think on one hand that's good, and I get where people dig that. And I think on the other hand, it can be too much. And I tell my son, like, don't compare yourself to people's highlight reel, because that's all a Facebook or anything. And no one's talking about no one's talking about
Right.
their agonies of defeat as much as they're talking about, hey, look at me, I'm in Cabo. It's like, it's always about all the look at me looking good stuff. So but I like to have, I like to be able to keep people up on what I'm doing, those who are interested enough to find out. But yeah, like I said, I don't want, I don't want people to know, too much about me.
Right.
I don't want, and what I mean, but I mean by that is just also as watching the role, just watch if like, I don't, like, I see somebody come on TV and they're English, and now I've heard them do their English accent, but they've been doing a great American accent or something. Now every time I see them, I just think, oh, they're English though, right? Like, I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to know. I just want to watch them work. So I'm not that interested in people actors' personal lives for the most part, because I just want to see their work. And so that's sort of where I'm at too. Is like, I don't want you to know too much. I want you to just watch the work and get what you get from it. Hopefully, in some ways, you get touched, moved, or inspired. That's my job, right?
There you go. You've done a great job for an unbelievable amount of years, right, Courtney?
Been blessed to be able to keep doing it this long. I mean, it's not totally a mistake. I've constantly worked at my craft and things like that. And I've tried to be smart about realizing what age I am and what roles are available, and adjusting to being able to get those types of roles. I think when you start out as a child, teenage actor, it's not an easy transition. I mentally made sure that happened. I didn't, once I was working, I didn't start taking for granted, like, oh, I'll just have jobs forever. I was like, yeah, no, you got to keep working at get good, just keep getting better at what you do. That'll take, and then things will take care of themselves.
That's a good one right there. That's good advice right there from the mouth of Courtney Gaines.
Yes, sir.
Well, Courtney, it has been great to visit with you today, sir. Like you said, been a fan of so many of your movies over the years. Hope you have a happy 4th, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Good. That sounds good. Been a pleasure meeting you, and talk to you soon then.